There are enemies and bosses littered throughout Super Mario 3D World. While some just try and damage you, several block stars are even required to progress through the game. So naturally, I started to wonder, can you beat Mario 3D World as a pacifist? We start in level 1-1 and it's pretty easy. There are no required enemies and all you're expected to do is run to the end. But this is where I have to bring up another core mechanic of this game, green stars. Unlike most other Mario games, the 3 green stars in each level aren't just extra collectibles. They're required to unlock certain levels, including the final boss. So throughout our playthrough, we need to collect 170 of them. In level 1-1, I got the first one and then ran into a conundrum for the second. You have to catch a rabbit to collect it, and I realized that after catching it, it disappears, seemingly dead. So the second star is a no-go. The third is intended to be collected by first killing a big rabbit that drops a Mega Mushroom, which you can then use to break some bricks and collect a star. But you can instead just jump over the edge and cat dive into the cage. Level 1-2 is more or less the same. Unfortunately, 2 of the stars are locked behind killing enemies in some way or another, but now we can move on to level 1-0. In almost every world, you have to face a little mini-boss in the middle of it. So we're gonna have to introduce my super secret method of 2-player mode. Now let me ask you a question. If someone were to come out of nowhere, pick you up, and throw you onto a cripple, who would be at fault for the cripple dying? Clearly not Luigi. For the second character, I decided on Toad as he has the most strength out of any character and can therefore throw characters the best. Even though we have a good strategy, this level is still very hard. The charging chucks charge at you, and since there are 2 of them, I constantly have to avoid them while also making precise throws to kill. You have to hit each of them twice, once to take off their helmet and once to finish the job. But if you wait too long, they'll put the helmet back on. I died for 18 minutes straight, so here's what finally worked. If you're enjoying the video so far, then make sure to subscribe. I upload every week and it would mean a lot. Thank you. After beating 1A, I immediately went back to level 1-2 and took the secret exit to World 2. If you're wondering why I didn't do this in the first place, it's because I wanted to explain boss fights in a timely and orderly manner, and not because I'm a complete idiot and forgot this existed. In level 2-3, we're expected to pick up a piranha plant and use it to eat through fuzzies and every other enemy in our path. You might think this is alright, as we're not strictly doing the killing, but if you pick up a firing machine gun and point it at your enemies, you're definitely still going to prison. So instead I played through the whole level without it. Friendly fire is still certainly allowed as I saw later, and even though the last star seems to require me to slay some large beast to save Captain Toad, it's just a cardboard cutout. Level 2-Tank is an auto-scroller level, and because there's a boss fight at the end, I need to bring Toad along. Just to clarify, I'm not having a friend help me out. I have 2 controllers, and when I want to play one character, I have to put the other one down. On my first run, I made the mistake of putting on a cannon hat. This automatically shoots grenades of death at enemies, and made me restart. I had to make a tight jump over 2 lines of soldiers at the end, right before our first encounter with Boom Boom. I thought it would be just as bad as all the other mini-boss fights we've had before, and I would have to replay this level for an hour. But Boom Boom is really easy. He moves super slow and collapses of fatigue after 0.2 seconds. With an easy boss defeated, we can move on to World 3. In level 3-4, they have a short section in the clouds where you get a star, run through some enemies, and collect a green star. But I found out that you don't actually need to kill any enemies, and can just jump into the star at the end. In level 3-6, I had to do some very precise parkour and maneuvering to not kill any beetles and pick up the green stars. Pom Pom is about as hard as Boom Boom, although she requires a bit more strategy. She does stand completely still, so I really shouldn't have missed any of my throws, but when you do, you have to quickly move Toad and Luigi out of there before 1,000 shurikens enter their bodies. When you do hit her though, every shuriken and fake pom-pom disappears, so just don't miss your shots and it's an easy fight. In between Worlds 3 and 4, there's a special boss fight against Histocrat, and it's a total pushover. You just jump off of the lowest platform with Toad, throw Luigi, and win the game. In 4-2, I again took the secret exit out to World 5, and in level 1 there was already a tight spot. In the second half of the level, you ride Plessy to the exit. But there's one small section with an enemy blocking our path. With a precise jump though, I was able to get around it. King Cthulhu's castles sucked in 2-player mode. To get around, I would always carry the other character, and because of the increased height, I would constantly get hit by these blue spiky squares. The actual boss fight itself was pretty easy. All I had to do was throw Luigi onto the weak spot a few times and move on to World 6. To beat Prince Bully, I realized that I could throw Luigi, knocking Prince Bully into the pipe, as well as Luigi to deal damage completely against his will. The final level of World 6 was very similar to World 3, just amped up a lot. It's an auto-scroller, and this time it's filled with hammer rows that are annoyingly accurate. I took a ton of damage, but when I reached Boom Boom, I realized how much I've improved at this challenge. I wasn't missing any shots, and easily cleared through Boom Boom hitless as Small Luigi and Toad. Between Worlds 6 and 7 is another special boss fight, this time against Motley Boss Blob. Unlike every other boss in this game, I'm entering solo. In this fight, it gives you a lot of cherries which spawn a clone of yourself. And before I show you the fight, I have another question. If you had an identical twin who killed someone, are you both going to prison just because you look alike? Of course not. So this was a pretty easy boss fight, and all I had to do was make sure I had at least one clone alive at all times for plausible deniability. In World 7, the first level is already a nightmare. I tried so many times and got so fed up that I decided to get some more lives. Up until now, I've game overed a lot, and it's really annoying because it takes so long. There's an infinite life glitch in level 1-2 that you probably know about. You kill a Koopa and use his shell, but you don't actually need to kill him. You can bop one of them out of their shell and take it. Murder might be illegal, but stealing someone's entire house certainly never got outlawed. With that shell, I can go into this small corridor, throw it, and jump on top of it, giving me infinite lives. I got to 1,000 lives for my first crown, 100 for my second, and 10 for my final crown. Anyway, back to the horrors of 7-1. There are 2 sections where you have to kill a fire bro to move on. The first one jumps from a static platform to a moving Goomba stack. This one might be okay, if not for how annoying the Goombas were. I basically had to wait for the fire bro to take his own troops out and then throw Luigi at his head. After this is a checkpoint, and since I basically have infinite lives, I never had to replay that part again. The next part is even harder though. This time the fireball jumps between 2 stacks of Goombas, and since there's a gap in the middle, some of the fireballs don't even cross. This means there are fewer chances for fire to hit a Goomba, and I have to survive for longer. Eventually, I managed to take him out and finish the level. 7-2 was impossible. You travel to rooms with switches you have to activate, but once you activate them, every enemy on screen dies. But thankfully it's a split path and I don't need to do it. In 7-4, there's a scary section at the end. You're intended to kill 3 bullies at the end of it to reach the flagpole. But instead of committing any crimes, I did this. The final boss to World 7 is locked behind a Stargate. I need 130 and only have 81. It just so happens that the other 2 worlds with a Stargate were Worlds 1 and 4, which we skipped, so I haven't really been paying too much attention to how many I have. So I had to go and beat every level I skipped. Along with those levels, there were a lot of stars that I could have done but just failed like a P-switch and decided it wasn't worth it to retry. So after collecting 142 green stars, I made my way back to World 7. I had to kill 2 hammer rows at the end of the level, which sucked. I found out that you can spawn in Toad, so I didn't have to do the entire level all over again, but it still took me several tries to take them both out. The final boss fight has us chasing Bowser's car and kicking up explosive soccer balls to blow him up. And this time, I have a completely new strat. We crouch and cry and pray to the almighty flying spaghetti monster to save us. Miraculously, a hand comes down from the sky and smacks Bowser's balls right back into him until he's dead. Of course, the game's not over yet. Bowser kidnaps all of the fairies and takes them to his final kingdom, World 8. And there's not too much to cover. It's the most difficult world for sure, but that mostly comes from really difficult platforming. I found that in most Mario games, there are a lot of enemies in the beginning, but towards the end, it's just more and more precise platforming in every level. Especially 8-7, which has always been one of my least favorite levels. There's an 170 star requirement to face the final level, and unfortunately I was too short, so I went and played the Mystery House for some extra stars before the final fight. The first bar only required me to avoid some enemies and fire raining from above, but once we got to Meowser, things started to get real. There was an auto-scroller that I climbed up before reaching this section. I had to hit a POW block beneath Meowser. To do this, I spawned in Toad, but we're still too big to fit under it. So by damaging the both down to 1 health, they were just small enough to fit under it, and I was able to throw Luigi and hit the POW block. There's another auto-scroller section that I died way too many times on before reaching the top of the skyscraper. All I had to do was pick up Luigi and throw him 4 times, but right before the 4th hit, Toad died and I accidentally jumped, finishing the fight and committing the last murder I possibly could. I was very annoyed with myself and worried I'd have to do the entire level all over again. But at the end of the level, you're able to jump off of it and respawn back in the fight. So the second time, I finished the fight the right way. And now, all the fairies are free, unlike Toad, who will most likely be receiving 27 life sentences. If you enjoyed the video, then liking would help me out a ton. I post a new video every Monday, so you should subscribe as well so you don't miss another upload. If you have any challenge run suggestions, then comment them below and I'll be sure to check them out. Thanks for watching and have a great day.